Wow, wow, I can't believe it is that time again. 1 year in the making. Good evening, everybody. Go ahead and type in the chat box where you're listening in from. This is Brandon Ivey from Los Angeles, California. I'm the founder and CEO of Ivy League Crypto Academy, ILCA for short. And I hope you guys have had a good holiday season so far. I've done one broadcast today, which was the Crypto Talk, which was the first broadcast I've done all week. So I was glad to get back on the horse and speak to you guys this morning. And this is our second broadcast, and then I'm going to be back on vacation again for a couple of days. I'll be back on Saturday. As a disclaimer, I am not a licensed financial advisor to be giving financial advice. I share information for educational, training, and entertainment purposes only, and it is up to you to make your own informed, intelligent decision on which direction you want to move into. I do want to recognize you guys that's coming on right now. I see, and this is something we are streaming live on Facebook and all of my groups. So feel free to share, invite others. This information is the most important information for anybody who is looking to achieve more than what they currently are in life. I literally mean that. This information out of any presentations, trainings, products, services on elevating yourself. The information I'm going to open the door to you tonight is the most important. It's also, there's a reason why I only do this once a year. I did something different this year that I have not done in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, is I actually went back and looked at my previous recordings. In fact, I went back and listened to the very first time I did this talk. And in those days, it wasn't on Zoom. There was no cameras like this. It was, we had conference calls. And in those days, I wouldn't even have, like, there's no camera on. And on my side, you didn't see it, but I used to sit in the dark and I would have Baroque classical music playing behind me out of audible from you guys, but I can hear it. And there's a reason for that type of music because of the brain, the frequencies that it gives off put your brain in a certain tone. You ever wonder why rich people listen to what you might call stuffy music, the Beethovens, the Mozarts, all that kind of stuff? That really, to me, is like, doesn't sound beautiful. It's just a bunch of noise, but there's a reason for that because it is sending out a certain vibration, a certain frequency that they operate on that everybody else does not. I'm already starting to get ahead of myself. So first, let me recognize you guys. I see Miss Marnita Casa, Anna Clark, Mr. Albert, Carla Arrigo. Oh, my son, Christopher Ivy, CJ Jackson, Clairvaux Albert, DJ, Doreen, Jacqueline Briggs. Jacqueline, I don't know if Shauna Ross is on here, but Jacqueline did hear some of my original secret talks. I think she might have even been on the first one I ever did. That was 11 years ago. And I did go back and listen because I wanted to see the difference on how I sounded then as compared to how I sound now, 11 years later, and a lot much more experience. And I do notice there's a difference. There's things that I know now that I had no idea of back when I first started doing this series, but I followed the code and it still works. Now I understand it. I understand why. It's like the Matrix. You ever seen the Matrix and you saw the Oracle told Neo, you've already made the decision. You're just here trying to figure out why. Back then I had made the decision. I didn't fully understand why, but I do now. Now, does that mean the information I shared the very first time I did The Secret, which I'm actually going to put those recordings in our ILCA portal, but that I didn't know what I was talking about? No. See, here's one thing you have to understand as well. This information is not my information. This is not something that I just had a genius thought of and just figured out and wrote about and speaking and training on. No, I am regurgitating ancient information. This is since the beginning of time. This is a law. It's like the laws of the universe that it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. It is what it is. If you work it, it will work 100% of the time. Gravity. You drop an apple out off the apple falls from the tree, it will always hit the ground. Gravity. except some exceptions to the rule if you develop technology that can maybe make it hover, but it's a law. So don't think anything that I am sharing tonight has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with my ego or anything. I'm not trying to come up here and say, I figured it out and y'all have to follow me. No, my goal tonight is not even to teach. I'm not qualified to teach this. What I am doing is opening up the door so that you are made aware that this even exists, that people have been applying this in their life, even if they didn't know that this is what they're applying. People just have put names on it over the centuries. This is also information that is not taught in school. It is not taught in most people's homes, but the wealthy teach it to each other. The wealthy have their own libraries in their houses that nobody else has access to. They have access to knowledge that is not in circulation, which I'm going to get into in a second. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me keep going here. I see Janine, Joyce, Catherine, Keith, Kenny, Carrie, Krishna. See Leonard Long. Also, Michael Pendleton. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Pendleton? Rashida Janelle, Rita, Tamika, Teresa, Viola, Wild Bill, Willie, 16G. Work with Miguel. Miguel was probably there too when I did my first early the secret toss. I used to also call it the mindset trainings. Zoom user and then a telephone number. And then all of you guys on Facebook, welcome, welcome, welcome. So as I speak, I'm also going to do something different as well. I don't want you just looking at me. I want to put your mind in the right zone and frequency as well. So I'm going to be sharing screen, and as I speak, there's images that you're going to be able to look at. All right, let me get this, share screen. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. All right, here we go. So it's just images that's just going to be in the background while I speak. So what I was saying is that this is not my information. This is information that I've been studying for a long time and that I will always continue to study as I continue to grow, continue to develop, and to get to where I want to be. So we want to start off by understanding, number one, that it is human nature that we want more out of life. The music sound, oh, hold on. There we go. How about now? I didn't know there was music playing behind it. Is it good now? All right, good. Really, I didn't check that out. I didn't know there was music playing. Okay. So what I didn't know at the time, well, what I do know is every single person wishes and desires for more out of life. And we're operating with knowledge and information that was shared to us from birth, from our parents first, from observation of how they're living their lives, from when we go to school, the school system, our friends and their parents, and the teachers around us, how they're all living, and they're teaching us that if we want to have a good quality life, we want to have reach all of our goals and desires, then we need to follow what they're showing us, what they're teaching us. Unfortunately, none of that ever works. It never has. Yet our education system will continue to teach the same thing. So to break that cycle, it's up to you as an individual. And then once you figure it out, what you're sharing with your children. That is the most difficult part, to be made aware that there is something different, to unlearn what you've learned, to be having an open mind to learn something new. The reason why I only do this secret talk once a year is because I actually agree now with what my mentor told me back in the day. Because back in the day, I used to do one year, I don't know, maybe 2013 or 14, I was doing once a month this type of talk. And my mentors had to pull me aside and said, Brandon, you need to cut it out. You need to stop. Said, I know you're excited. This is new information that you're starting to apply. You think everybody needs to know it. But here's the deal. Not everybody's qualified. And I was upset with that statement when I heard it for the first time. I was like, what do you mean they're not qualified? No one owns this information. So that means it's open for everybody. So everybody should know it. And they had to let me know, said, Brandon, it's not hidden. You know, if you want to really hide something, you hide it in plain sight. Everybody has access to it. People just don't even know it's there. And even when you do tell them about it, they're so indoctrinated. Their mindset is such on a different frequency. They're not even going to be able to apply it. And if they attempt to apply it, it will end disastrous for them. And there's proof of this. You might have heard of two individuals named Bob Proctor and Rhonda Byrne. And the image I have behind me is Rhonda Byrne came out with a movie that was edited and narrated also by Bob Proctor called The Secret. Who remembers that? It was a big thing when it first came out, and millions of people either read the book or watched the movie and attempted to apply the information, and they did so incorrectly. And what ended up happening was you had the main thesis or theme of it is whatever you think about, you can create, you can desire. Your thoughts are things. Just think it, and it shall become. Like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, or Think and Grow Rich: A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. Even Earl Nightingale had a record called The Strangest Thing, that what we think about, we become. What we think about, we can manifest. And when that movie and that book came out and people attempted to apply it and failed, it was a backlash. This is all hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo, um, self-improvement, personal development, Tony Robbins junk that isn't real. It's not that it wasn't real, it wasn't complete. The series mentions something, but does not go into detail, and it doesn't go into detail on purpose. I mentioned Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Do you know that the original version is not in circulation? The original version of that book, Henry Ford forced Napoleon Hill to pull it off all of the shelves because he actually gave away the secret. And Henry Ford was like, "Are you crazy? That's not for everybody else. That's for us." Hidden knowledge that is not that there's a lock and bolt on it. It's just out of circulation. And if the only information you're reading is what your schools give you, the only other source of information is when you turn on the television and the news source, you're being fed propaganda. You are purposely being put on an off frequency because you're supposed to have a role in society. And if you deviate from that, you mess up the plan. You mess it up. The one thing that I learned is that there's enough wealth in the world that every single person can become wealthy. Every single one. Why is it that that's not happening? Why is it that that's not the case? We've been taught that to become wealthy, you have to do it on the competitive field. You need to go to school. You need to get good grades. You got to get better grades than somebody else. You got to apply to the best colleges, and you've got 5 million people applying for 5,000 seats in an Ivy League school. Who gets those seats and who doesn't? Meritocracy. Born in the right family. Speak the right language. All of that is by design. I mean, even right now, the college system in America is a scam. You graduate from college with a degree, hoping to get a job to pay off your debt, quickly to realize that there are no jobs that will even pay you a salary that's good enough to support yourself and pay that debt. The system's rigged. So you have to begin by making a choice that I believe, and you need to say this to yourself, and you need to speak it out loud. I believe I deserve more than what I'm getting right now. I want more than what I'm getting right now. I will have more than what I'm getting right now. And then there's another part of that. This is people miss the last part. Why? Why? Why do you want more? If you ask yourself, you say, Brandon, I've been doing this and things have been working. I always say, I want to make more money. I want a new house. I want a new car. Why? Why? What is this new car going to do for you? What is this new house going to do for you? What is this money going to do for you? Because even if you ask for it and you get it, you will lose it because you're missing the ingredient behind it. See, what I'm opening the door to you guys, and you might be listening to me thinking, I've heard all of this before, is the undertone, the gas that runs the engine to make this work. It was pulled out of Think and Grow Rich. I think by the time Henry Ford allowed the new draft to come out, it was a watered down version of it. It was like watching a preview of a movie or the movie trailer and thinking you've seen the whole movie. That is it. You read Think and Grow Rich right now, that's a trailer. That ain't the movie. He wasn't allowed to put out the movie on purpose. So I want to open the door to you guys on the secret ingredients, the secret sauce that makes all this other level stuff that you've heard in your lifetime actually work. And I'm going to get to that ingredients a little later on. But how did I even come upon this? You know, have you ever, we just had right now, what was it? One of the biggest lotto things, Powerball or Mega Millions. I don't know which one. The last ticket was one in California, like $1.2 billion or so. Do you think that changed those people's lives that just made that $1 billion lotto ticket? Let's say, yeah. Statistically, they have a 70% chance of being broke within 10 years. Did you know that? Most lottery winners go broke 7 to 10 years after winning the lottery. The reason is because they never learned the skills necessary to acquire that type of money in the first place, and they didn't have the knowledge on how to keep it because money is resource. It is energy. And all we think about is, I want more money. I remember the first time when I was working a job and in the office when the lotto was taking place. We all wanted to join in as an office pool together. And then we split the winnings. And I remember one day after we had bought our tickets, I think it was like a $90 million lotto. And I was on my way driving home. And I started to go into dream mode. I started to think about, man, if I won that money, I'd buy this car, I'd buy this house, I'd go on this vacation, and I went into dream mode. It's difficult for adults to do that. Adults don't dream like this because we have to live in reality. Dreaming's for kids. Kids have imaginations. Kids have daydream about great things and having adventures and whatnot. And then at some point, we tell that kid, you got to grow up and, go get a job and deal with life. So we don't dream. And that's 90% of it. Got to dream. The only time we do is when the lotto comes up and we think to ourselves, man, if I won that lotto. And I was in dream mode about that. And next thing I know, I was pulled up in the driveway of my house and I had no idea how I got there. Have you ever been through that before? Have you ever been in a situation where your mind starts to wander? And then when you're finished and it's like you snap back to reality, you don't know how you got there. One of the things I'm going to get back to doing, I haven't done in a while, is when I do talks like this, I tried to explain it to my cousin Marnita, that sometimes I can go into a zone where when that happens, I'm a passenger. And I'm in the audience listening just like all of you, because like I say, again, this is not my information. And then after the fact, I don't recall what I said. until I go back and listen to the replay. I'm like, huh, where'd that come from? It's because when you do that, you dream, you daydream, you're tapping into, how can I explain this right? An energy source, like a frequency, like the knowledge in the universe. You start tapping into knowledge that's not yours. And I might be going a little too deep on this one. Let me pivot just a bit. The subconscious, that is my point. I was able to drive home because it was a habit. I habitually do this step every day. Habitually, I don't have to think about it. It's on autopilot. For the secret to work, it also has to be on autopilot in your brain. The reason why the movie The Secret didn't work for most people because it was not on the subconscious level. It was on the conscious level. Everybody was like, yeah, I'm thinking, it's not happening. Because you don't understand the principles behind it. It's like buying a brand new car and not putting gas in it and wondering how come it won't move. So my journey began because I made a decision that I wanted more out of life. And I knew that a 9 to 5 job wasn't going to get me there. It wasn't going to happen. So I said, okay, I need to be involved in things where people are actually making money. And that was being an entrepreneur. I knew nothing about being a business owner or an entrepreneur or anything like that. So I was just getting started. And I learned when I was going to these meetings and presentations from the direct selling space, there was always a trainer in the front of the room on a Saturday morning talking about what you need to do to be successful in your business, how to be able to sell your product, how to be able to recruit your team and build and this and that. And I became a master of everything that they said, and things still did not work. And I was frustrated. I didn't understand why. 10 years of mediocrity, and I'm doing everything right. And I can see other people who didn't know 25% of what I knew making $20,000, $30,000 a month that you never would put in front of the room because they get the whole presentation wrong. And it was frustrating. It took me 10 years to finally figure it out. So the question is, what was it, Brandon? What did you figure out? What happened? So one thing when you start to listen to Jim Rohn, things that stated even in The Secret is not in doing certain things, it's in doing things in a certain way. Have you ever ran into people that seems like luck is always on their side? Like, man, everything good always happens to that person. They're always lucky. There's no such thing as luck. It's attraction. They're attracting things to them. It's not luck. It didn't happen by accident. What do I mean by attracting? If you want to become or you want to attract successful people, then you have to become attractive. I always state in the direct selling space that if I want to, people say, man, if I was able to recruit a superstar, then I would make it too. No, you don't recruit a superstar, you attract a superstar, and superstars are attracted to other superstars. Would you work with you right now? Would you say, you know what? DJ is wildly successful, so I'm going to want to work with DJ. Janine's wildly successful, so I'm going to work with Janine. Would you work with you? And you got to be honest with yourself. And if the answer is no, then you have to ask yourself, how do I become that person? Become the person you want to attract, and you will start attracting those type of people to you. I'm going to give you at the end a couple of things on how exactly to do that. But it took 10 years for me to one day have my aha moment. And when I had my aha moment, everything changed. Everything changed almost overnight. And what was funny is when I would meet new people and They would ask me questions about, success. I'm like, man, you're having success because, you got a large following. People, you know, a lot of people, da, da, da. And they're looking at where I'm at right now, at that moment, but not where I got started. At some point, I had to have a beginning. I like that Mr. Pendle says, yeah, I'd work with me. You're at that point. For the longest time, I had to answer that question for me was no. I'm not going to work with Brandon. Where's he going to be able to help me get to? What's his life looking like? Is he living his dreams? Has he had success? This is always the thing. You got to watch who you follow or watch who you listen to. A lot of the personal development and self-improvement coaches out there, they're only making their money off of teaching personal development, self-improvement, not that they've actually done the process and the job themselves. When I was at Morehouse College, I started off as a business major. I graduated political science. Why? Well, I had a professor, and he was one lesson, he was giving some good stuff. I was taking notes like no, I was paying attention to every word he was saying about macroeconomics, microeconomics, these business leaders, and he was always giving examples of former Morehouse students that are in the corporate world now, own their own businesses, having success. So I raised my hand. I asked a question. I said, "All right, this is great information. What businesses and investments have you done that you can show us that this theory or this law worked?" And his response was, "No, no, I'm not out there doing it because I'm in here teaching you guys." I'm like, okay, so before you were teaching us, what did you do? Where's the success? I wasn't being smart here. I wasn't trying to be funny. I was legitimately intrigued because I wanted to, man, if he was in it that way, I wanted to get some ideas. He didn't take that the way I thought he was going to take it. And he was like, no, you don't understand. I'm here teaching you your young minds. And I wish I could take it back, but it came out of my mouth in those early days. I was mouthy. I said, how can you teach us on something you've never actually done? Ooh. Yeah, I didn't stay a business major for very long. He didn't. We had a rough semester after that, and I apologized to him. I didn't mean to try to call him out like that, but that's a legitimate point. So everything that is coming out of my mouth is not based on hearsay. It's not based on I listened to somebody else say it. It's based on experience. I don't have a job. I don't have a boss. I have a company, my own company, that'll be 3 years old next month. I've had success in everything that I've done. I've had my ups and downs, but I have a skill set now that I know no matter what I do, I'm 90 days away from where I want to be financially. If I make a pivot in anything, some of you guys were here when we started off in the cell phone industry, long distance, health and wellness. Now I'm freaking Bitcoin Brandon. How'd that happen? Because that's irrelevant. I'm not a success because I'm in crypto. I'm using knowledge that I learned in any field that I go into. So once you learn this knowledge and this skill, you'll have success in anything you do. At that point, the world's your oyster. You just pick and decide what you want to do. And hopefully you'll make the decision, decide to do something where wealth can be generated. See, I had to learn a hard lesson that I disagreed with my grandfather when my grandfather taught my father and myself that if you want to be successful, be the hardest worker at anything that you do. That means if you're going to be a street sweeper, a janitor, or elevator operator, you be the best one at it. And just those titles and examples that he gave showed what opportunities were available to a person who looked like me in that age. A street sweeper, a janitor, an elevator operator. So while I do agree with his initial statement of be the best at whatever it is you choose to be, The hardest workers in the world are the brokest. Let me repeat that. The hardest workers in the world are the brokest. Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf court in the last 30 days than in an office. Elon Musk has spent more days in Mar-a-Lago than in an office. And he raised an extra $200 billion in wealth in the last 30 days. It's about working smart and picking the right industry to work hard in. Developing the mind first. How do you develop the mind? Like pulling yourself out of the matrix. Like who had just said that? Avis Franklin got out of the matrix. Yeah. So the first thing you do, you make the decision. And then here's something else that they don't teach you to do. You have to figure out why. Why? Yeah, I want to make more money. Why? What is money going to do for you? I want a new car. Why? What is a new car going to do for you? It's designed to get you from A to B. So a $20,000 car can get you to A to B. A $150,000 car can get you to A to B. Why do you want the $150,000 car if it can do the same thing? I'm going to give you one word and I'm going to back up on it because I'm not ready to go there yet. It's called feeling. How did it make you feel to have that brand new car? How does it make you feel to sit in a $150,000 car rather than a $20,000 car? How does it make you feel when you're pulling up at the stop sign and people are looking at you on your brand new ride? How does it make you feel to be on that vacation? To have that nice home? For your kids to be able to afford to go to college? It's the next level. Why do you want it? So it took me 10 years and I stumbled across two things. Now, everybody's journey is different. This is why I can't teach this. All I can do is open the door for you because you're going to have to go down your own journey. Every journey is different. When Oprah Winfrey found out about The Secret, she was like, I've been doing that since 1975. I just didn't know there was a name to it. So I stumbled across two things and the light bulb went off. And this is after I had already been studying Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale. I read all the books. Light bulb never went off in my head. I got motivated, but motivation is just motivation and it runs out. And then you got to get yourself motivated again. Why do you think church is every Sunday? You know, the day before we begin the new week, going back to work. Got to get ourselves back hyped up and get ourselves back in the spirit and get energized. And then the week drains it all away. And then we get recharged again every Sunday. It's designed that way. That's just motivation. How do you get to a point where you don't need to be motivated anymore? Your subconscious is doing these things automatically. So for me, the light bulb went off on two things that I stumbled across. One was an audiobook series called Your Wish is Your Command by Kevin Trudeau. And the second is a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. That book, I actually recorded myself reading it and I have it on YouTube. So you can, if you don't like to read, you can pull up on YouTube The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles and then Brandon Ivey. Every chapter I recorded myself, it's uploaded. I'm reminding myself I need to listen to it again. Those two things gave me an aha moment, a breakthrough in my life, my career, and nothing's been the same since. Yes, there's been ups and downs along the way, but it's always bounced back. It's never stayed down. What triggered for me was one phrase of focus on the goal and not the task. I have another video series on that title alone, focus on the goal and not the task. Because I was so focused on being in control. I must need to do something. I must be there must be information I don't know that I'm missing. So once I found something new, then I wanted to master that. I got to be doing something. And no, I was spinning my wheels. Instead, all I had to do was ask. You might think, wait, what? Yeah. All I had to do was ask and then have faith and belief that it was going to happen with full confidence and expectability and get out of my own way. What does that mean? I was in my own way. And so the reason why this works is because of something called vibration, frequency, law of attraction. When you are able to train your brain to vibrate a certain feeling, your brain is a battery, or better yet, a magnet. It's a magnet. Magnets have two sides. Magnets can attract and magnets can also repel. Once you get your brain to be able to attract the right frequency, meaning the desires that you want, it's not that you're going out there and getting them, you're attracting them to you. And next thing you know, it's like, man, that guy's always lucky. Things are always happening. When I first started to train Marnita up on this, she didn't fully understand it, and she couldn't until she witnessed it over and over and over. I mean, the first time she might have thought it was a fluke. The second time, she's like, okay, well, he is where he is, or because of that. But when it kept happening, at some point, I'll let her tell her own story on that, on her own journey. She was able to witness it through me. And she's been having her own at the same time. In fact, just happened again the other day. She was on with, and it's funny that it always happens when she's either on the phone with me. She was on the phone with me and it happened again, right when she was on the phone with me. It's like is the universe wanted to show her and teach her something. See, I told you this works. Look, she might have been doubting herself for whatever reason. At that point in time, it was revealed to her as a reminder again. But let me get back to how I had this revelation and then what happened after. So I what when I say focus on the goal and not the task, what that means is that instead of focusing on what you have to do to get to where you want to go, focus on where is it that you want to go and why do you want to get there. And once you understand what that is, then you work backwards, because what starts to happen is the universe starts to work in a way to force everything to happen like puzzles. We are all connected. There's no such thing as solid. We're all atoms and molecules. And if it gets small enough, you can pass through my finger, pass through the table, just like radio waves. Have you ever had that feeling where you could be standing somewhere and somebody come up behind you? You don't even hear them, but you can feel their presence. Somebody's invading your space like a bubble. I always look, have you ever watched, like I used to watch, oh, I still watch like Shark Week, and now they got drones. And they watch the pattern and behaviors of fish and sharks and dolphins and whales, how the pods swim together in synchronicity, and how when they come in, they always maintain a certain distance from each other. And if orca moves slightly this direction, the shark can sense it and just darts away because it can feel it. I was experimenting the other day. I was cooking some eggs and I was cracking the eggs, and a piece of the eggshell fell into the yolk into the bowl. And so I'm trying to dig it out. And every time you get close to that eggshell, I just kept pushing it. The more I tried to dig it, the further it went. You've ever experienced that before? It's like batteries, like or magnets repel. So you have to understand that the air we breathe, the universe, the energy, things we cannot see in our visual spectrum. What we see, there's so much more that we can't see because our eyes aren't tuned to see it and our ears aren't tuned to hear. Just because we can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. There's much in this universe we don't understand. And the things we don't understand, we call it magic or we call it something else. It's scientific. We just haven't figured it out yet. But you don't need to figure that part out. Just know that it works. I grew up in a Christian household. I remember my earliest memories of having the chicken pox. And my mother would say, before we go to bed, all right, pray. When we say our prayers, thank the Lord for healing you. And at first I was like, huh? And then she repeated, I thought she must have misspoke. She said it again. Thank the Lord for healing you. And I would say, wait a minute, hold up. I'll thank the Lord after I'm healed, when the deed is done. Why am I thanking him for something? It hasn't happened yet. And she's like, no, 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 you don't understand. It's already a done deal. You thank him for it right now. Now, in Christianity, you chalk it up to faith. The belief in something you cannot prove, something that you cannot see. That's faith. You ever heard that term, having eyes, a sight that your eyes can't see? That's not just biblical or meditation or Buddhism or Hinduism, any of the world religions. It's a scientific fact. Because what is actually happening is, by me giving that gratitude and having that positive, how it makes me feel to be healed, I'm tricking my brain into something that hasn't happened yet. And my brain then starts to work to make it happen. I hope that part didn't go over your head. This is so important. This part here. This is what 99% of the people who ever hear about The Secret miss. They don't get this part. And so by showing gratitude, focusing on what it is that you want and you know why and how it makes you feel, you start to attract that to you. So that's what I started to do. After those two things, the science of getting rich, your wish is your command. I said, you know what? What do I have to lose? I'm just going to let go, not try to control. And it's very difficult for men, especially, to do this as providers, especially if you have a family you have to take care of and you're under pressure, you're under stress. It's very difficult to trust the process because you're always thinking about the consequences if things don't happen. So you're not focusing on the goal, you're focusing on the task. And here's the problem when you're focusing on the task. We look at the world through like a magnifying glass or a sonar radar, like if you're in a submarine and the radar signal, and it's only so big. And we're only dealing with what we can see. We're only dealing with what we can control, what we have to deal with, but not realizing the world is not in this magnifying glass. The world is everywhere. Every time you move the magnifying glass, there it is, just different pieces of it. But what happens inside of this little bubble is things that's happening outside of the bubble to interfere with it. Think of it like this, like water. And if you drop one drop of water, you cause a ripple effect. And that ripple effect, you don't know how far it will go. When was that? Remember the Christmas tsunami? That hit, what, 50 different countries or something? As it spread out. If you're a teacher, you have no idea what impact you have on the world because of something you taught a third grader that got something that changed that third grader's life. And that third grader grew up to become president. You never know how far your reach is or what little impact from just little things. You might be in a rush to go to work and you're rushing and you're rushing and you're rushing. But then the last minute, somebody says, stop, pause. You forgot your keys. You go back and get your keys or you left your cell phone, and then you're going back on the road and you see a big car accident that happened that had you not stopped, you would have been a part of. There's every little thing matters. And other people, what they do on the other side of the world can impact you here. So when you ask for something and you're putting that vibration out, you are actually putting energy out. Thoughts is energy. There's the electrical waves in your brain. Something physical is taking place. And other brains can pick up on that. And just like fish in the sea, it's like we are in an ocean right now. It's just not water. So what other people do impacts all of us. And so when you put that out in the universe, then it starts to move things around to make it to you. And then people say, well, Brandon, I've always been doing that. How come it never reached me? Because you are so entangled and messed up. It might take longer to unlink this bad stuff to finally get to you. And since you weren't patient on the process, you interrupted the process. And then you have to start all over again. And you could go your entire life with that same cycle and it never happening because you start something and then you interrupt it. You start something, you interrupt it. You start something, you interrupt it, and you're blaming everybody else for your problems and not realizing that it starts right here. So I decided to let go. Now, I didn't know how tangled or how long it would take me. I already knew I was 10 years in. But almost immediately, because I started to vibrate on the right thing, I started to focus on what I want and how did it make me feel for an extended period of time. I started to do that. And I remember that year, I said I needed an extra $10,000 a month by the end of the year because it's going into the Christmas season. And that has always traditionally been the slowest time of year for me business. That's another one of my own goals. I'm going to break that trend. One of my goals is the November and December. I'm going to have it where I've made the most money at that time. That only happened to me maybe 2 or 3 years. I remember the first major one was December 2017. That's when Bitcoin had jumped up to 20,000 a coin for the very first time. So that's one of my own personal goals. But during that time, I said, I need to make an extra $10,000. And I had no idea how it was going to happen. I wasn't going to get a $10,000 bonus on my job. I did not have the home-based business I was in. I did not have a huge team that was going to make me an extra $10,000. So looking at my radar screen, it was impossible unless I won the lottery. It was impossible in my head from what I'm looking at that would ever happen. And that's the problem. And people start to believe that because they don't see it happening. Therefore, it's impossible. It's not going to happen. So instead of me trusting, saying, I don't see how it's going to happen, I said, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then a series of events, one, and I shared the story, I'll share it in detail another day. But the business I was in, there was a gentleman that under regular circumstances, this would have never happened. Well, I will tell this because this is important because this shows a change in my behavior. The business I was a part of, I was scheduled to have a presentation. I think it was a Saturday. And I remember that morning, it was raining, it was cold. I had been promoting it all week. And when it was time for me to get up, I was like, man, it's too cold. I don't want to do this. But I had to get up. I got to handle my business. So I got up, got on the call to get started. And for the first 5 minutes, there was nobody there. And in those days, it wasn't a Zoom, it was a conference call line. So when somebody joined, you hear a ding. In fact, I listened to my old The Secret talk from 2000 from 11 years ago, and you hear dings in the background because I did what I'm doing now on the phone. There were no dings, and so then I had a decision. I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead. Nobody's here. Let me hang up, climb back in the bed where it's nice and warm, and get some extra sleep. And I'll just do this again next week. And then something hit me. Remember, I said I started moving differently, acting as if. If you ever hear somebody say fake it till you make it, that's BS. You never fake anything, but you can act as if. That's another training I'll do another day. And Marnita, write that one down. Act as if. So I said, let me go ahead and do this. Let me act like there's 1,000 people listening to me right now. And I did. So I started the presentation. I acted like there was 1,000 people listening to me. So I gave it the same energy I would if there was a room full of people. I remember 5 minutes in, I did hear one ding, but I didn't think nothing of it. I finished my presentation, hung up, and then I climbed back in the bed. That was on a Saturday. 2 days later, Monday evening, I get a phone call. And that was a interesting day. I remember a lot was going on at work. And I wasn't too happy. I get a phone call and I answered the phone and it was this guy and he was so excited. He was like, Brandon, oh my gosh, thank you for picking up the phone. I got your number and I just want to say I want to apologize for coming late to your presentation on Saturday. But the information that I got, I was blown away. And I went back to my team because we were trying to decide on a couple of different business opportunities to join, and the team was looking at going this other direction. I really didn't feel that way with it, but after listening to you, I think that this was going to be the right fit. So we went ahead and signed up, and I got my leaders on board. And do you think you can do a private meeting with us? And I'm like, whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. What do you mean you signed up? Because I hadn't looked at my report that day. I was so busy at work. He said, yeah, we signed up. When's your next meeting? I go and look at the report. And it was like a dozen of them in the system already. And they blew up. They made me a lot of money in that short period of time that I would have missed that opportunity had I not started to think a different way. And my thought process made me act in a different way where I normally would have went to bed and nobody could fault me for that. Nobody was there that day. And had I done that, I would have even never known. See, here's a scary thing. You have no idea how many opportunities you've missed. You don't even know it. Ignorance can be bliss. But I would have missed it because they would have joined another opportunity and I would have been spinning that wheel in the sand week after week, not understanding what I'm doing wrong. But I had a different thought process and it made me act a different way. And then the results. I got more than $10,000 in that season. And then it was maybe a year later that I walked off my job and retired, and I haven't been back since. Thoughts or things. Let me bring it to you a different way on how to do this. And you guys might be familiar with this story, but there's a story of a woman, and this woman is always in bad relationships. She's always with an abusive partner or a partner who takes her for granted or a partner who's always doing something just not right. And it doesn't matter which boyfriend she has or ex-husband, it always ends the same way. And it's like and she's like, I can never get a good guy. And a friend says to her one day, you know what, maybe you need to go to therapy or something. So she goes to a therapist, a psychologist, and says what the problem is, that she wants to have a good relationship and she just, every single one is the same thing. She's like, what's wrong? And she's like, are there any good men out there? And the therapist says, let me ask you a question. What is it that you want in a man and in your relationship? And here's her answer. Well, I don't want a man who doesn't have a job. I don't want a man who is always relying on me I don't want a man who decides after work wants to go hang out with the boys at the bar and then ends up cheating on me or coming home drunk. I don't want a man who makes me feel bad about myself and is physically or emotionally abusive in front of me. I don't want a man who doesn't want to love me as well as my kids. I don't want any of that. Now, logically, that makes sense. What woman wants a man like that? But the therapist says, you didn't answer my question. Says, yes, I did. Said, no, I said, what do you want in a man? And you proceeded to give me a laundry list of what you don't want. Do you understand that you're attracting these men to you because that's all you're thinking about? See, and not only thinking about, because then oh, I skipped something. She asked you this question. How does that make you feel? She said, bad. I feel bad. I feel terrible. And she said, but you didn't answer my question. I asked, what do you want in a man? And you told me what you don't want and that it makes you feel bad. So if you're always thinking this is what you're putting out in the universe. This is what your brain is vibrating on. So it's only going to attract that same frequency. So you keep attracting these same men because a good guy's not on that frequency. So you're repelling all the good guys and you're attracting what it is you say you don't want, but your brain doesn't know you don't want it. Your brain only knows how you feel. And since this is how you're feeling, the brain says, okay, let me give it more of that. Does that make sense? Instead, say, I want a man who will love me. I want a man who does have a good job or can provide. I want a man who wants to spend time with me and not with the boys after work. I want a man who will love my children like he loves me. And then how does that make you feel? Good. I feel good. Focus on that. Now you will start to repel the men who are on that other frequency, and you're going to start to attract the men who is how you feel. Almost seems like magic. That goes for everything. Everything. Why? That's why it's not enough to say what you want. You have to back it up with some form of energy. How does it make you feel? And your ability to stay on that for a long period of time, because we don't have to think about feeling bad. Let's talk about money for us, for example. You want to know why you're not attracting money to you? You're repelling money from you because every time you think of money, it makes you feel bad. Why? Because what do most people think about when you think about money? Oh man, I got to pay rent. Do I have enough? I got a doctor's appointment. Am I going to be able to afford it? Will the insurance company accept it? And I go to the store, I got to check the price tag. My kid's always asking me for money. Taxes is coming up. Christmas is coming up. New Year's, debt, credit cards. How does that make you feel bad? I don't have enough money. I feel bad. Your brain doesn't understand that. Your brain only knows how you feel. So your brain, you're putting the feeling you have to the word money. So every time that word comes out, the emotion and the feeling attached to it, your brain doesn't understand the words. It doesn't know the word money. It knows the word feeling. It knows the emotion feeling, not the word I mean, the emotion. So if you're already feeling bad about money, the more you speak on it, the less you're going to attract it to you because of how you feel about it. One thing that I learned about wealthy people, they don't think about money as much as you think they do. They don't. When they're at the grocery store, they never look at the price. When they want something, they never think, can I afford it? They just say, I want it. I don't care what the cost is. I want it. You think, well, that's because they know they can afford it. No, you missed the point. They don't think about money as much as poor people do. And you may not believe me on that until you get on the other side and experience it for yourself. Because I know firsthand. Budget. What do you mean I can't buy it? I want it. Get whatever you want. It's a different There's levels to this. And so when they think of money, the only thing they're thinking of that's not money, they're thinking of lifestyle. They're focused on what kind of lifestyle do I want to be on a beach somewhere? That's where I want. It takes money to get there, but they're not thinking of the money, they're thinking of where they want to go. And then they attract the resources to make it happen. You go back to Christianity biblical study, and they talk about, the Lord works in mysterious ways. He'll answer your prayers, just not in the way you asked, or not in the way you think you're going to receive it. I always tell a story of two men working a 9 to 5 job. They're both not making enough money to support their family. They both want more, and they will both start praying, I want more. They go to work the next day and they get laid off from their job. One goes back on his knees saying, God, I asked for more and you just put me in a worse situation. I got laid off from my job. I should have kept my mouth shut. Now what am I going to do? The second one goes back and prays, says, thank you, Lord. I mean, you must be preparing me for something better. And here's what ends up happening. The guy who had the gracious attitude about his situation, all of a sudden, he had another offering that came to him that was making 3 times more than what he was doing before, that he would have never been had the option to getting if he wasn't laid off from his job, because he wouldn't have been looking. So it took him being laid off to force him into this direction that he normally wouldn't have been going on if he didn't. The other one probably had an opportunity come and he missed it, focused on the wrong thing. You just never know how or where or when it's going to come. So you have to be open to be able to see it and recognize it when it does happen and not let it pass you by. And that's where it really started to happen to me too. At a point now where I expect these things to happen. Marty will tell you, I said something in December, beginning of December, that I wanted to start to attract a certain business to me again. How long did that take, Marnita? A week? 2 weeks? And they're all flooding in now. And she was like, wow, you just said that. I expected it. So I'm not surprised when these things happen. I'm surprised if it doesn't. Then I'm like, okay, it's only a matter of time. And it's not going to happen the way I expect, which is another reason why I do The Secret once a year at the end of the year, because it's always amazing. We can go into the new year with our New Year's resolutions and our desires and goals and a game of plan, a game of action on what we're going to do starting the new year. And we end the year in a completely different place. I had no idea I was involved in some of the things I am right now when I first started 2024. No idea. I'm at a stage now where I want a little bit more control on that, in the fact that I don't ever want to be in a position where it doesn't matter how successful I work and the effort I put in is in the hands of somebody else and the decisions they make, which is why I have a whole lot more focus in 2025 on my own company. That's a personal thing for me. I can control that and I can manifest in and through my own brand and my own company, and not for somebody else who has their own interests in heart that may not align with mine. And I don't know what their interests are. I only know what they say, but I don't know how they actually really feel. That's only a personal thing for me moving forward in 2025. And this is something I didn't fully understand 11 years ago when I first started doing The Secret. I was excited. Oh, I made 7 figures and this and that. Oh, yet a lot of the businesses that I was part of, the CEOs did stupid stuff, and you had to start all over again and over. And I'm done with that. Not doing that anymore. But you may not be on that level or ready for that stage yet, and you might have a different manifestation for yourself. So I'm gonna end with an exercise for you guys on how to get started. I can't tell you where to go. but I can show you how you can change how you feel. You know, after 25 years in the direct selling space, I started off with Les Brown motivational. I walked on fire with Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, out of all of those motivational speakers that came out of the Earl Nightingale School, the Bob Proctors, the Zig Ziglars, the Jim Rohns, Tony Robbins was the most successful because they all teach the secret, but a version of it. None of them are teaching the whole package. They all have their own little niche that they are good at. Les Brown sounds like a preacher. Tony Robbins is a rock star. Jim Rohn, intellectual. Tony Robbins is most famous because he's able to get results faster than everybody else and for a longer period of time because he teaches and trains on how to change your physiology. So if you ever listen to Tony Robbins or gone to any of his events, that is a big key part of it. If you change how you feel, you will change your life. If you're feeling bad, change that. You wake up in a bad mood, attitude, play some music that you love. Dance. Do something that you enjoy. For that brief moment, break up that cycle or that steady stream of a bad feeling. Break it up, chop it up. Cause, a shift in the vibration. Because when you start to change your physiology, you start to attract to you. So he doesn't have to say that. All he does is, I'm just going to teach you how to change the physiology. Everything else will happen automatically. You got to be the big VIP payers to hear that information. But to the main rest of the public that just attend his event, his whole focus is, I'm going to teach you how to change your physiology. And it's okay to feel bad and then let that energy go. It's okay to cry, get it out, and then let it go. It's a season. It's not permanent. Acknowledge it. Don't act like it's not there. Don't act or fake it till you make it. Act like you want to become, and you will attract that to you. Henry Ford, when they had him in court saying that you're an uneducated man, you're stupid, yeah, you don't know this, kind of the same thing people are saying about Elon Musk right now. He's kind of a dork, a goofus. He's kind of stupid. Really? You know what Henry Ford said? He said, "What if you lost all your money, Henry Ford? You wouldn't be able to be a school teacher. What would you do?" He said, "Yeah, it's true that you lawyers know more than I do. I just hire people who know more than you to work for me. And if I lost all my money, the first thing I would do is I would go find out where all the rich people are and hang out with them. Just be in their presence. Be a part of the energy. You ever gone to a concert before and you can feel the vibration from the crowd and the artist, the energy? Go to a live basketball game or a live football or WWE. Being in that environment is different than just watching it on TV because you're feeling it. You ever heard that term? I don't just hear the music, I feel the music. Changing your physiology. For me, my main source of mentorship since 2012 has been Jim Rohn. I'm a huge Jim Rohn listener because he's feeding me the information that I need at this point in my life. So I strongly would encourage listen to the things he has to say and how he teaches his version of the secret without calling it the secret. There's a lot of it, but the secret is I'm doing this injustice trying to give it in 1 hour talk. So how to begin the process for yourself with changing how you feel. Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to ask yourself this question. If you woke up on Monday morning and you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Most people you ask them, where are you going to be 5 years from now? They can't answer that question. They answer with hope, but they can't definitively ask because they don't even know where. There's a difference of where do you want to be or where do you think you'll be? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And when you know what that is, then you can say, what am I doing today to make that a reality? You can't be on a 9 to 5 job making $75,000 a year and say, I want to be a millionaire in 5 years and still do the same things every day you were doing. That's called insanity. Doing something over and over and over again and expecting a different result. No, things have to change. Begins with the decision. But before you begin with the decision, you got to know what is it that you want. But if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Now I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult because you think, oh, I do that all the time. I think about that whenever the lottery comes up. I'm going to buy my big house. I'm going to buy my summer home. I'm going to buy my SUV, and I'm going to get a boat and a yacht. I'm going to take vacation. I'm going to go on a spending spree. I'm going to go to Paris and Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive. And I'm going to pay all my kids' debt. Grandmama get a new house. Okay, so you spent a year doing all of that. And let me tell you something that is weird. If you go on a long vacation, sometimes you can't wait to get back to get to work. It's weird. And you got to experience it to understand. Because I remember the first time I heard somebody say that, I said, you must be lost your doggone mind. It's like, you don't understand. How can a rich person commit suicide? How can a rich person be depressed? What are they depressed about? They don't know. They don't know what challenge is, that you don't know if your kids are going to have a roof over their head next month, that most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, 6 meals away from starvation. That's real struggle. What are you depressed about? You got 50 million in the bank. Huh. You want to know why? See, when you get money as an issue out of the way, now you have 24 hours of the day where you don't have to deal with the bullshit of day-to-day life. And now you're focused on who you are as a person. And that can be scary for some people. And you realize, I am a piece of shit. My wife heard me say that. She laughed on that one. You realize that you're a piece of shit. There's nothing about you. You bring no value to anybody. You just got money. And people call you on that, and you get depressed. See, my old thing was, if I'm going to be depressed, I'd like to be depressed with 50 million in the bank at least. But we have a lot of distractions in our day-to-day lives. We got to get up and go to work. That's 8 hours right there. 2 hours preparation. We got to deal with our children. We got life. I don't have time to be depressed thinking about this other stuff. But they got nothing but time. So here's the question. What would you do with your life if you had all the resources? Most people don't know. So if you don't know, because here's what's make it hard. 1 year from now, after you've bought all the things you want, after you've had all those experiences, after you've taken all your vacations and the trips, you can only buy so many yachts. You can only buy so many cars. You can only sleep with so many women. Once all of that stuff is done, and next year, you still wake up on a Monday and you have more money in the bank than you did before your spending spree. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? What are you passionate about? What would you do if you didn't have to work a 9 to 5 job? What would you spend most of your time doing? What God-given talent were you born with that you have all the resources for you to put out there in the world? What would you do? And then most importantly, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? And why do you do this before you go to sleep? Because when you go to sleep, your consciousness goes to sleep, but your subconscious is still wide awake. Have you ever heard the term people say, let me sleep on it before I make a decision? Let me sleep on it. I got to think about it because your brain is still working. So what you're doing here is you're tricking your brain. You're putting your brain to work. And your brain, all it knows is, dang, you went to sleep feeling good. When was the last time you went to sleep feeling good? Most people at the end of the day, they're going to sleep, man. I got to wake up and do this day all over again. And you feel bad going to sleep. Now you got a full 6 to 8 hours uninterrupted, feeling bad, and your brain vibrating that frequency for 6 hours. What do you think is attracting back? So you can't, the reason why The Secret didn't work, because you had a quick 5 minutes of feeling good. You think that 5 minutes of feeling good is going to overwhelm the 24 hours of feeling bad, or the 19 hours? There's a balance, there's a scale here. The scales are not balanced. So it's going to take a while for you to reverse that scale where you will naturally start to feel better more than you feel bad. And once you get to the other side of that scale, all of a sudden things are going to start happening to you like magic. It's not right now because your scales are off balance. So we got to break that. So give your brain an opportunity to start working on your behalf based on how you feel. So I guarantee what ends up happening when you first wake up in the morning, you feel good or better than you used to for a fleeting moment, and then it's going to go away because then reality hits you. Repeat the exercise the first thing when you wake up. Again, this isn't something that hasn't even been taught, because there's a lot of people in the Christianity say, pray before you go to bed. Pray before you start your day. Because what that activity or that action is actually doing is you are putting out in the universe, because you are speaking to God on a positive way. And then you go to sleep. You're waking up to begin your day on a positive vibration. And then do it again at lunchtime. And create a habit of this. This is why you always hear people say, gratitude is everything. Be grateful. Always think. Most people don't think about that until Thanksgiving and the New Year. If you can get good at having that grateful thought, instead of always focusing on what you don't have, recognizing and being grateful for the things that you do, and letting that fill you with joy, you start to attract more of it to you. Attitude of gratitude, CJ's right. So you start to do that on a consistent basis. And I am actually upset with myself because I have not been doing this on a consistent basis like I used to. I got comfortable. Things have been rolling in, and I stopped doing what I did that got me there in the first place. Which is another reason why I do the secret talk once a year. It's also a reminder of myself to make sure I'm starting off the year on point. So you do that exercise repeatedly until it becomes a habit and it starts to be a subconscious. And then when you can feel yourself not feeling good, immediately you can change that thought process, change that feeling, how you feel. Make sure you're thinking and focusing on the right thing. And then it doesn't matter what you're doing, things start to happen. Now, if you're putting yourself in a field or in doing something that is generating a lot of wealth, that's what's going to start. All of a sudden, things start happening for you. And you're going to be like, man, where was this 5 years ago? You weren't vibrating on that 5 years ago. You can be doing the same exact thing. We all have 24 hours in a day. Every single one of us. Nobody gets more time. It's what are the results of what we're getting in that time? What are we doing in that time? So whatever it is you're doing right now, you need to change, including myself. You gotta switch it up. Got to look at things from a different way. Vibration, feelings, emotions is the most powerful thing in the universe. If you can make sure that you're vibrating on a positive, building type emotion, not a destructive one, your life will change. And anybody could change no matter how old you are. You could be in your 70s, 80s, and have a radical change. So that's all I wanted to share for tonight for The Secret. Like I said, I wanted to do this different than I've done it before. I wanted to go back to the basics. I hope you learned something new. As always, that's the point. Get yourselves ready for 2025. I think that this is going to be a year unlike we have ever seen before in our lives. I don't know exactly what's going to happen or what or how. I think it's going to be transformative. So you want to make sure you start off the year with the right thinking, the right thought process, the right feeling, having a clear, defined vision of what you want. And then why do you want it? How does it make you feel? And how often can you remind yourself of that? Whether it's daily, weekly, hourly, monthly, is up to you. The next broadcast that I do will be on Saturday. I'll be doing Crypto Talk Saturday morning. I'll be off for the next couple of days again. I know next month we're celebrating our 3-year anniversary. There's two things I'm really going to be focusing on as well is one-on-one consultation and coaching. So anybody that wants one-on-one consultation and coaching, ilcaverse.io. Wait, no, I'm sorry. winwithivy.org. I'll put it again in the chat box. Oh, I'm showing screen here. Let me, right here. winwithivy.org to set up consultations with me, 30-minute consultation or 1-hour consultation. Also, for those that want my courses on the crypto side, ilcaverse.io. Here's something you need to understand. I have a discount going on with my first 10 courses. Bitcoin 101, Crypto Advanced, How to Trade Bitcoin and Crypto, Internet of Things, Decentralized Finance, NFTs, Metaverse. Hold on a second. I'm not on this frequency, so it's messing me up. ivyleaguecrypto.info. This site right here. Yeah, NFTs, Metaverse, Web 3.0, tokenization, and artificial intelligence. Regular price is $24.99. I have a special going on right now to get all 10 for $1,000, $1,500 off. Go to ivyleaguecrypto.info. But the 3 new courses, security, decentralization, CBDCs, I will be releasing these in the second half of January. These 3 courses combined is $750. But right now, a special for $399. So you can actually get all 13 courses for $13.99 instead of $24.99. All 13 courses for $13.99. This site is ilcaverse.io. Yes, ilcaverse.io. Get it while you can because the price will be going up, but it's just for these 3. And my $1,000 courses is going to go back to $24.99. So take full advantage of it. That's will help you. That's an action you can take from first making the decision. Second, now that you made the decision, take action. Get your hands on the courses. And then the third thing is actually apply it. Go through the courses to begin your 2025 off on the right foot. So with that, thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule, breaking up your vacation to be here with us tonight. I hope you learned something new. As always, that's the point. And I will, this is recorded. I will put it up on YouTube as well. I might add a little bit of music and stuff behind it too, like I used to do back in the day. And I'll see you guys on Saturday. Oh, look at that, Janine. You already got it. Hold that up again, Janine. The secret, the magic of, was that the magic of thinking big? But the magic and the secret of Rhonda Byrne. That's it right there. But understand when you listen to that stuff, the key ingredient, how does it make you feel? And vibrate on that feeling more than, I want to make money. Good. And I did forget one other thing too. Success and riches is not always in the form of how much money is in your bank account. It's in your lifestyle. You don't need to have 50 million in your bank to be happy. I look at the fact I haven't had to answer to a boss for 12 years. My freedom is priceless. I can't put a price tag on that. So each of you have different levels to what is exciting to you? What would make you happy? Sometimes you can still be on a job. You don't have to be not have a job to be happy. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how to make $100 million. We're talking about how to have a and manifest a good quality of life for you. And everybody's number is different. So with that, thank you guys for being here tonight. And I will see you guys on Saturday unless something major changes. Take care. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.